So what do you guys want to talk about? What is there to talk about except NVIDIA earnings and the aftermath fallout from that? Other earnings to cover, mostly good, some bad. Kenny hit the bid click at 8:35 will get us his perspective on this roaring market. Special surprise for you today on Pre-Market Prep.
Welcome to Benzinga's Pre-Market Prep.
This is a volatile puppy here.
It's all about execution styles and strategies.
All right, good morning, traders and investors. You know where we're at. We're up near all-time highs, up 61 handles at 50.57 and a quarter. We did exceed that all-time high at 66.50, going a couple ticks through it, but that's what we'll keep an eye on. We got the buck backing off 27 cents at 103.65. Bonds down a few ticks at 117.20. Crude down just a few ticks as well at 77.75. Gold up 430 at 20.38.60. Silver up 17 cents at 23.05. And Bitcoin having a good morning. That's up $1,260 at 52,215. Gonna bring in a man that had a busy evening and afternoon. Let's bring in Triple D, and we got a new person in the hot seat today. We'll see how long he lasts. No longer. Let's see. It's Ryan Faluna joining Pre-Market Prep. Come on in, Ryan. How you doing?
I'm doing really good. Thanks for having me, guys.
We watch Ryan all the time. Obviously, his show follows ours, and Ryan always does a fantastic job. But I was just saying, I don't think we've ever done the show with Ryan before. He's been in the background for us. He's always helping us. You know, we know Ryan very, very well. Worked with him for a lot of years here now. But I don't think we ever did front and center with it. So we're excited to have Ryan Faluna here on the show.
I really appreciate it, boys. I will say it was difficult to sleep last night with NVIDIA doing its thing, me knowing I'm coming on here to make my debut, but I'm ready to roll. Let's get it done.
Yeah, drawing the short straw over at Benzinga, but we got to lead it off with the stock of stocks. How did NVIDIA do?
So Ryan, let's we'll throw it to Ryan here. Ryan's the master of the pro. If you ever have questions with the pro, you just throw it to Ryan. He can figure this all out. So we'll throw it to Ryan here. He's going to show us the NVIDIA chart, and we're going to jump into those earnings because these earnings were very impressive.
All right. So one of the things that we saw here on the earnings is just how big of a beat this actually was. If we flip over to the calendar here in Pro, we can actually see how big these earnings beats were.
Zoom in there, Ryan, because my glasses, I got to like this.
Oh, I can fix that, Dennis. I can fix that. Here we go. Sorry about that. All right, so here's the calendar in Benzinga Pro. This will actually show you what the earnings numbers were. You can see that NVIDIA has really been beaten recently pretty big. Now, the one thing that I noticed after this beat, which might account for the first move down here, was that the surprise EPS has actually declined sequentially quarter over quarter here. Back in that August quarter, we had a surprise EPS beat of 29.19%. The following quarter, we dropped 10% to 19.64%. And then the following quarter, we printed a 11.21% surprise on the EPS. Sorry about that. We actually see the same thing on the revenue. So if we scroll over to the revenue, you can see this started at 20%, down to 12, now down to 7. Now, Dennis, there might be another reason for this, right?
Yeah. So if you can look, and this looks like, wow, they're not beating by very much. You know, it's not as much as they are. So the growth is slowing here. That is just not the case. It's like guidance has come up so far. The company has brought up their guidance so far that, you know, when we got that that crazy quarter 3 quarters ago, nobody was expecting those earnings. Now they are expecting the beats, you know, and a lot of people, even Dan Nathan, saying he thought the expectations had come too high and they actually might guide down. I thought that was foolish to say, which obviously proved to be the case because they're still beating earnings by 11%. But these are really elevated numbers. And when you give this perspective, I mean, this company, you know, is growing revenue so quickly here right now and growing the bottom line so quickly that it's been hard for the stock price to keep up. A lot of people talking about NVIDIA saying, well, NVIDIA is, just a bubble. NVIDIA is, not going to be able to keep up with this, stock price move. It's unsustainable because the fundamentals just don't back this up. That has just not been the case. We've been talking about this. It's the reason that I own the stock is the fundamental story is what has been the actual driver of the price. It's been trading 30 times earnings. It was trading 30 times earnings at 400. It was trading 30 times earnings at 500. It is actually trading at 30 times earnings at 762 now, because that's just how much they have grown. So it's funny. It's just growing along with the earnings. So the fundamental story is real here. Again, we've talked about what the bear story should be, and that would be pull forward, competition, stuff like that. But when you just take the actual numbers, this company is not that expensive. They can keep producing, and growing. They're not going to grow at this rate, but if they can even keep these rates somewhat elevated here, the stock is not as expensive as you think. But, let's talk about the trading action here, Joel, because
oh boy.
the algos were all over the place on the opening print. They initially spiked it, and then they tanked it. And I mean tanked it. Talk about that trading action.
Well, first of all, also China's not in full gear with them too. I mean, they still are selling chips to China, but with some of the restrictions on that, there's still, some room. I was watching this and I saw the pop up and then I saw the drop, and I'm like, what is the reason for this going down? I mean, high expectations. It looked like they beat those high expectations. I'm not even going to talk about the pre-market low. You got to 645. And then they started coming in and buying it. Then once it went unchanged, but that's past history. What we got to look at right now is what was the former all-time close. The former all-time high was 746.11. That's only 16 bucks a day, $16 away. And your pre-market high comes in at 775.59. That's only $10 away. So there's a perspective early range for it. If you have a target up here, take it. Did you guys discuss the straddle yesterday? What was
we did give, it was 11%, I believe, on the stock. I want to say it was like 70 points. I don't know if you have it in front of you there. I can calculate it really quickly on the close.
Okay.
No, you're right. That is what it was. It was options implied an 11% move.
11% move. It went out, actually. I'm just looking at where the prices went out, Joel. Closed at 674. The 670s went off the board. 33. Again, it's wide. So, that's where people, say, oh, it's the last price. But the spreads on these options are 60 cents wide. So you're looking at the 33 quarter, 33.80. So 33.50 plus 28.35, Joel. Do that air math for me there. So
66, right? Yeah.
66 bucks. So it is actually outside the expected move here, folks. So straddle buyers actually making money. It didn't look so good for them on the initial print when it kind of hung out there around flat for a few minutes, but then the buyers just emerged. And what I tweeted out yesterday was this quarter, I tweeted out after it went down and then it just started to pop back up. I'm like, people are buying the dip on this because the quarter is simply too good.
All right, so this is moving other stocks too, right? And it's going to move SMCI the most. And what a wild ride, SMCI. What a time to announce an offering, Dennis. I mean, how is that? That's just catching everyone off guard on Wall Street. Unbelievable.
It's not catching anyone off guard on Wall Street here, Joel, because that is why they did it when they did it. Ryan, you said, the timing of this offering was impeccable. And it's a convertible offering, 1.5 billion, so it's not huge, but it is an offering. What time did they do this?
Yeah, so they did that offering right during the conference call.
During the NVIDIA conference call.
They knew no one would be watching. They'd instead be listening to that conference call. So they definitely knew what they were doing there.
That was sneaky. And that turns me off of this stock to a certain extent because that was very sneaky. Obviously, I get this question every day. When are you rebuying SMCI? When are you buying SMCI? I don't like that they pulled the timing of it like that. I mean, again, it's up 84 bucks because NVIDIA is up, but they did do a convertible offering last night. The stock did tank on it too, Joel. If you look at the trading action, when that came out on SMCI, blow that chart up a little bit more, it lost about 40 bucks. In about 4 minutes. I had a trader from Bright just tweet, what's going on? What's going on with SMCI? It's tanking. And I was like, oh my gosh, they did a convertible right. That's what they did right then. So you can see, and it's been bought back because, heck, it's AI day and everything AI is going here. But that was sneaky. And you know what? I'm just, a little hesitant to just say, SMCI is going back to 1,000 here right away. That offering comes out. If people start thinking about that, it felt sneaky.
Well, an easy thing to look at for this, and you love when you get a setup in something, a stock just going nowhere, you can't find resistance, and then you get a meaningful retreat off the upgrades. How about the double upgrades that we got? First, it was Bank of America, or weren't the initiations with buy? Wasn't it Bank of America and then Wells Fargo on these 2 days? Remember that? Holy mackerel. But what's important for you traders to keep an eye out, let's just call it 1080 to basically 1080 to 700, right? So that's like a 400-point move. Let's get back up to this 900 area, which it got close to in the pre-market. I'll get my retracement tool out here so we know what the
Sure.
exact number is. But this is it. This is what you SMCI traders got to be looking at here. Very close. Look at that. Comes in nestled right at 900. You're at 820. Very, very important. A lot of people are caught. A lot of people thought they're going to get bailed out by the NVDA report, but
And
man,
they are
I'll
to a
bet,
certain extent.
yeah, they are. But man, 900. Keep an eye on that because even a lot of people got caught on that. I love that number. That will make that a 5-star SMCI. Broadcom moving off this. I mean, this is
Yeah.
moving everything.
Before you leave
Dennis.
SMCI, because it's just so many people asking me about it, and
Okay.
my intentions right now are not to rebuy it right now. Not even thinking about it. If it was down at 500 or 600, would I rebuy it? Probably, because valuation starts to make sense. But again, I'm just going to say the timing of this, makes me a little bit skeptical on, everything here. So I'm just staying away. I'm going to stay away from SMCI here for now. I think, it's going to have a good day because it's AI day, but I'm staying away from SMCI.
We joke around a lot and stuff about, different companies and doing things and the sneaky upgrade or the sneaky downgrade or something. But, Dennis, I don't think I've heard you sound like more convicted that the stock has made you some money. It's hot. It's in the sector, but it's almost as like you lost a little bit of faith in the management.
I didn't, and again, it's smart management, really, Joel. They timed it all well. They sold the spike. It's just, again, it's just during the conference call, right? Maybe it was a coincidence. But they did it. Maybe they were waiting for a spike on the price, and they got the spike, and it was the NVIDIA that caused the spike. But just interesting. We'll say that. Another stock I just want to talk about with SMCI and NVIDIA is one that Christian Fromhertz brought us last week, and it is Vertiv Holdings, VRT. I've been day trading this one a little bit. It's moving off of, I think we may have talked about it yesterday. I was going to talk about it. I don't know if we did, but this does the data center cooling. So it did. Oh, yeah, we would have talked about it because we reported earnings. The earnings were kind of a disappointment, but the stock has bounced all the way back now. Just showing you, this is a good example of showing you the underneath demand still for AI stocks. And this stock isn't a crazy valuation either. I think it's trading 29 or 30 times forward earnings, so it's not crazy. They do the cooling for the data centers. That's VRT.
Yep, and just real quick, Broadcom, I'm not sure if this is at all-time highs yet. Let's just look like at the
not far.
Yeah, it's not far. No, it's not. That's trading up $50. All-time high in that, 12.95.97. That's $20 away. You can figure your closing high right there. Comes in right where we're at right now, 12.74.76. I see AMD up 9 sticks here. That's a ways from its all-time high, but you could use the 50% retracement rule on this one. That's been about a $20 move. So that's 184, 183, right? No, what's the all-time high? No, that's only $20 move. All-time high 181. Yeah,
184.92.
Where am I missing it? Oh, 184. Okay, so that's a $25 move, 12 and a half. That takes you back, 173, 174 area. So nice setups, nice retraces. Also, I just real quick before we go on our next stock, our next sector, or whatever. I mean, Dennis, we're right back at all-time highs. We hit all-time highs.
Yeah.
On one report.
Back. Yeah, one report. It bailed out the S&P. It bailed out the Qs. The question is, Ryan, I'm going to throw it to you on this one. Does it bail out the IWM? I am skeptical here. I actually kind of thought coming in that if NVIDIA and AI day happens, that the rotation could actually bring IWM red. We are not really participating much, and you made this point in the pre-market show here too, Ryan, so I'll get your thoughts as well. we're not participating much in the overall market, like on IWM. The stocks are up, some of them are up, but tech stocks are ripping. If you're non-tech stocks, some of those stocks are actually down today. Thoughts
Yeah.
here, Ryan, on
Yeah.
IWM?
Yeah, I mean, I thought that if NVIDIA sells off on this report, you could actually see some significant rotation into IWM or any of the names in the IWM. I mean, remember, when was the last time you guys remember there's been so much concentration in 7 stocks? I know we're talking about NVIDIA here, but really just the Mag 7. It'd be nice to see that kind of spread out. It'd be nice for some of that to rotate into some of the smaller names. That's what I was hoping for. Of course, we didn't get that here today.
No, and that's the problem here with just, labeling and saying the S&P. The S&P is so heavily weighted those tech stocks now that it's almost feels like it's a tech index. And, we start to sell off last week on the S&P because, we had a couple bad days in tech. But QQQ and SPY are very closely linked. IWM has told a completely different story here for a long time now. It's been the laggard trade. A lot of analysts that we respect very much, Craig Johnson's been on the show. We've had Ryan Dietrich on the show. We've had a lot of, analysts even on CNBC talking about the IWM catch-up trade. And, that may happen here eventually. But I'm all about, understanding rotations and what this means, for me from a day trading perspective here. AI day is not IWM day. This right now is AI day. I actually think IWM could end up going red today.
I just had a chat with Luke, and I spent some time looking at this over the weekend, and I sent him this chart of the IWM, that all-time high back in November of 22.
Almost 3 years ago now.
Yeah, I know, 3 years ago, and then this gave you all day in a forever to buy it here in the 160s. I'm just, and I know the high of the move is 205 and whatever, but I mean, this thing is either just hitting the most major resistance in the world and is never going to break out, or I mean, this is it. This is what you need. I mean, I'm almost thinking I'm not touching it now, but I was thinking if it could finally clear this area, there's a lot of room to the upside. So, and then today I was thinking, man, maybe it's going to pull the bootstraps up for the IWM, and it's just a setup, and it's not a daily setup. It's not a weekly, not a monthly. We're talking about a 3-year setup here in the IWM, and just going back to the reason why it's not rallying. I was out. I didn't get all the Fed speak yesterday. But basically, they're kind of like doing the backstroke, right? On the rates is from what I read is correct. They're higher
They've been
for
doing the backstroke ever since the December commentary from Powell when he full pivoted. They've been doing the backstroke. Every other Fed official, they came out the next day, remember, as some Fed officials talking, I don't know who it was, and trying to back off those comments to a certain extent. Maybe it's what the Fed is thinking, but maybe they don't want to convey that, we're leaning towards, cutting here. So they've pushed it back. But again, why cut rates when the markets are at all-time highs? Why cut rates when jobs, seemingly, we don't get, everybody's got a job that wants a job. Why cut rates and risk that inflation creeps back into this market? If I'm the Fed, I'm just sitting back, going to stand pat for a little bit and, see what materializes. I don't see any reason to cut rates until the data supports it. Ryan, your thoughts here on Fed talk?
Well, I'm a little surprised that you're like the Fed and you're going to remain data dependent. that sure makes sense to me. Looking at the IWM, was looking at Joel's chart there. IWM, as far as levels here, 205, really above 205. I see some resistance here between 205 and 212. But Joel, to your point, if we clear that, we could absolutely go higher here on IWM. And as far as the rates go, you guys think we're just not going to get any in 2024?
That's bad.
I think we're going to get some cuts.
Since December, maybe even before that, some of the groups that I'm in, we've been saying that there's no rate cut coming in March. We'll see about June. We'll see about later in the year. Nothing in March. Market was telling us we were fools. We ended up being right. Let's see when we get our first rate cut, if we do, in 2024.
I think we're going to be in the summer. I think it's maybe June we're looking at now. But again, that's not great news for the IWM, which needs rates. And I'm going to say, and Spinner brings it up every day, and I bring it up obviously a lot too. Keep an eye on the TLT. It's really your indicator, not for the SPY, but for the IWM. IWM has separated itself lately, has been rallying a bit, but TLT continues to break down. Looks like it wants to make new lows. What that means is long-term rates are going higher when the TLT is down. long-term rates going higher is very bad for any company that borrows money. And what happens in the small caps? They all borrow a lot of money. You know, a majority of these companies actually in the IWM do not make money. So they're financing activities for growth. You know, we've talked about XBI, and XBI has separated itself too. Everybody's talking about this, you know, impending bull market in the XBI, and that might happen. But I don't think it's going to happen without the TLT rallying. So I think when the TLT actually starts to rally, that will be my green light to start coming in and get bullish IWM and get bullish XBI. But until I start to see the TLT actually start to take off, I think I'm taking a back seat and still playing the tech trade.
Wait for some whipsaws today. Fed Jefferson at 10, Fed Harker at 3:15, Fed Cook at 5, Kashkari at 5, and Waller at 7:35.
Oh, what's Waller saying?
Yeah, what's Waller saying exactly? And so there you got major Fed speak today as well. We got some 8:30 numbers, of course. The jobless claims coming up, not a huge mover. Also, the PMI doesn't
will
come out
not
till
move tech,
9:40.
but that will move IWM. So keep an eye on that too. And TLT is your indicator. If you're trading any of the small caps, use the TLT as your indicator. Ryan, we want to throw this to some more earnings plays here, though. We got a few more to discuss before we're going to get the Warlock coming on in 12 minutes here. RIVN appears to be an epic disaster here. I'm going to throw it to you to give us those numbers here. I'm seeing the stock trade down 17%, actually approaching pre-market lows here. So there is no bounce. As much as good as NVIDIA has been, this is as bad as the EV trade has been. These numbers are not good.
No, they're not. Sorry. My I don't have the numbers in front of me here. Newsfeed is a little bit behind. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Let me see. I got him. I got him.
Like, we have Philip. Oh, yeah, Joel's got
I got him.
Go ahead, Joel.
They missed $1.36 versus $1.32. That's not good. And a slight beat on sales, light guidance, going for a 10% reduction in the workforce. Now, don't quote me on this, but I thought I saw they might actually produce less cars this year than last year. Did I?
Yeah.
I'm not. Don't quote me on that. But
I'll quote you on it here. So Phil LeBeau, who covers the all so CNBC steals our content all the time, so we might as well steal CNBC too. So Phil LeBeau on CNBC, nobody covers the auto sector better than Phil LeBeau, and he's on there doing a great job as he always does. Thank you, Phil. But he was talking about deliveries last year being 57,000. Now they're talking about deliveries this year being 57,000.
Oh.
No growth? What do you mean? No, that was production numbers actually producing 57,000. We weren't even talking deliveries. Talking no growth, like no growth, zero growth. That's an issue. And I've been on the book saying I think RIVN, could be one of those plays eventually, but I haven't been in because I've had no reason to go on this. There's been no real hook and rally. There's been no real talk about the EVs turning around. And you know what's killed EV is hybrid. People are talking about hybrids. You just look at the chart of Toyota, who is doing everything right here right now. The big three all talking about hybrid too. And, this is one thing, people say, I've been doing a lot right lately. I got the EV trade wrong in 2023 because I thought 2024, I was a little worried about a recession, so I wasn't going with the traditional automakers, but I still thought there would be more movement into EV. And there just hasn't been. It's Tesla, and then it's really nothingness. So, the lithium stocks have all been battered and killed because, obviously we're looking more hybrid systems as opposed to straight up EV. RIVN here down 17% here today, making a new low on the move. We might as well throw Lucid numbers in with it too, because there's no disaster, maybe more bigger than Lucid here. When the stock was $100, it was all ridiculous. I put the $5 price target on it when it was 50. Obviously, that materialized. The stock is now $3. Stock loss Lucid 29 cents versus 32 cents, 157 million versus 179 million on sales. So a huge miss on sales. The EPS, like with the slight beat because they didn't lose quite as much money, delivered 1,700 vehicles here in Q4. You're talking like, you remember when Musk was in the tents producing cars, for Tesla, and everybody's making fun of him because he's in tents. This is where these companies they're even not even in tents here at this point in time. 1,700 cars. The big three produce that. Some of these in a day. So, this is just light production. I'm hoping, that eventually there's some turnaround stories here. I do like the Rivian trucks. I think they look awesome. Lucid's a no touch for me. I think the only reason that's not a zero is the Saudis are behind it. So that's going to help. But they got the cash, the Saudi cash. But I mean, that's the only thing keeping Lucid surviving. Fisker has been a disaster. I thought that this could be something. It looks like it's going to go off the board worthless. So it's been Tesla versus every other EV company, and it's only Tesla. So you can't fight Musk.
Okay, going on the technicals here. I mean, down for the Rivian, you're getting back down to all-time lows here, and I'll just give you a range here. And you're right there, right now. Your March of 23, excuse me, your May of 23 low, 1235. Then the prior month was 1186 and 1258. You're opening down $3 on the heavy volume. If you're not stepping up at 1266, I think you will find some buyers under 12, near or down to that all-time low at 1168. But this is love stock, so not as loved as it was yesterday. But I think you'll at least get some shorts to cover. Lucid, that's a low stock, so harder to give numbers on that. That's down 7.5%, 342. Doesn't look as bad at the chart, but man, just a bunch of this thing's been pretty thin lately. Real hard to call support. I mean, 330, 340 area, but where's you going to go? I say it's easier to call resistance and unchanged at 370 in Lucid.
I want to get Ryan's thoughts on the EV market here too. One, the sector as a whole, and then two, if you want to jump into any individual stocks, I want to get your thoughts here too, because we don't get the chance to get Ryan on here every day. So he's obviously a busy guy. So Ryan, what are your thoughts here?
Yeah, appreciate it. I mean, I see EVs. I think they're here to stay, but I think the ramp is going to be much longer than anyone wants to admit. And it's not going to fit into the way the government is trying to force it. As EVs as a whole. As far as individual names, obviously Tesla gets the moniker that it's not really a car company, it's also a tech company. I'll let you guys figure that out. I mean, it's fun to trade. I personally don't like the Tesla car. Dennis, I know you just said you like the Rivian truck. Well, I'll tell you what, that hasn't mattered at all. I love the Lucid car. I think it is my favorite EV that I've seen so far. It's done nothing. That stock's in the gutter, like you guys said, and I agree. I think the only reason it's not zero is because of the Saudi backing. But as far as like individual EVs go, I'm not ready. I know when we just had the cold snap here across the Midwest, there were a ton of dead Teslas out there.
We never talked about that, Dennis. The cold. Those things wouldn't start.
Is that what's happening?
Yeah, that's what was happening. They were dead all over the place around here, and it was below zero.
Are the Lucids or which ones?
The Teslas. The Teslas.
The Teslas one. Well, that was one. Yeah, but we saw one. I saw it in a snowbank. I didn't know how much truth was to that. So
I saw several that wouldn't start because it was just simply too cold. The car was left outside. It had trouble starting. I mean, that's just how it goes. And, I do see some Lucids around here. Not really much. They're the prettiest looking EV car out there. I'm sorry. I know the stock's junk, but man, is that car awesome.
And I like the Rivians too. Like, I think eventually, maybe there's some more. But again, these companies are burning so much cash. Can they even get through the hurdles? And I've talked about 2024. I mean, obviously, it's the AI year. Companies are investing and piling into AI. EV has been forgotten. It's the forgotten child. And, and I think that's going to remain that way because one, the ticket for these cars are just too much, and people, need to finance this stuff, and the financing rates are a hell of a lot higher than they used to be. So I just think it's like the timing of this is maybe going to kill a few companies here. If we were in, this, like lower rates, the lower rate environment that we were in 3 years ago, maybe EV would set up better. But the higher rates is killing the EV market, and I don't know if we're getting the lower rates anytime soon. So I'm hands off on all the EVs. The only thing I did take was a partial position in Tesla because I like the humanoid story. I can't help myself. I took a quarter size of a normal position back when the stock was 190. It's right here right now, still at 195. But I do like the humanoid story. I just think they're cool. If I could get straight up Boston Dynamics, I would buy it, but I don't want to buy Hyundai. So that's where I'm just like, I feel like it's tough to get in there. I want shares. I want Tesla to go buy Boston Dynamics and merge it all together and just be the humanoid company. Then it's a real tech company, Ryan. Then it's not a car company. These humanoids come, and then it really is a technology company here.
Let me throw in jobless claims. U.S. initial jobless claims. 201K versus 217K. Continuing jobless claims, 1.862 million versus 1.885 million expected, prior 1.895. Didn't even have to tell you to go wide on that one, Triple D. So
I didn't. I'm glad you didn't tell me.
have to pull your orders and put them back in, but not much. That's not a big number. Of course, the jobs number much more important. But just go back to the Tesla. Is the thing you didn't like about it was the not starting in the winter, or was there something about the design or the comfort or riding in it?
Me?
He's asking you,
No,
Ryan.
me.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. No, I mean, the car is kind of boring looking. It doesn't really do it for me. What are there, 5 colors? I feel like.
It's
I mean,
not a luxury vehicle.
yeah, it's not. I mean, it's cool. It's got a nice clean interior. It's got the iPad center console.
Which I think is very unsafe to have.
Yeah, I
like
do too.
that
I mean, how many people are? Well, so Joe, let me get your opinion on the autonomous driving. Do you think that's going to be a mover at all? Because maybe I'm old fashioned. I like driving. There's no way I'm going to entrust a computer to drive my car for me. No way. Do you think the iPad is unsafe? I mean, man.
We're a lot farther away from full autonomous driving
no
than Musk wants you to believe. Like the one thing about Musk is his geniusness is unmatched. It's always been his mouth that he shoots off his mouth a little bit too much on that interview. Oh yeah, well, I'll be full autonomous within 24 months here, and this was like, back in the Faber interview 3 or 4 or 5 months ago. So I mean, like, are we full autonomous really in 18 months here, Tesla? No way, not even close. You know what it is? Like, we can do it, and understandably, it's pretty cool. It can keep the car on the road, but the drive that they have right now is not even close to full time. It's like, how do you grab that scenario where the dog runs out in front of you, or the kid runs out in front of you, or the different scenarios there where something happens really fast? That's what it's hard to grab when you're autonomous. So sure, 99% of the time they can probably be okay. It's that 1% where your brain has to work fast to figure out the solution, when you're getting into an accident, like close to an accident. Like, think about your driving career, Joel. You've been driving for 80 years. How many close calls? I mean, every year you'll have a close call, like something you have to react. It isn't like, I'm just sitting here, connect the dots, There's reactions, What about slippery roads? Like, I'm in Canada here. I mean, can it account for how slippery the road is? Pumping your brakes, doing all the other things. Maybe it's going to get there, but there's a lot of variables that are going to be hard to get. So I think we're a long ways away from autonomous yet.
Right, let's sneak in on Moderna here, then we'll get to our guest, none other than Kenny Hit the Bid Glick. Let's discuss Moderna trading in the green.
Oh, what's happening?
Do we lose Ryan?
No, I'm still here. Sorry.
Oh, you throw it. Okay, so yeah, we usually throw it to. We usually throw it to AB on that. So Moderna's up. I'll do it. I'll do the earnings here. I've got it in front of me here. So here, I'll do the AB job. So Moderna, 55 cents comparing sales beats. So 50. Actually, they've earned a profit here. So I don't know if they were supposed to. It's a surprise profit. Stock is trading up $5 here. I don't know if that's comparable though. Stock is trading up $5 here. The Moderna story, I like the Moderna story that they're working on, some other stuff. They're trying to move away from the COVID vaccines because we know not a lot of people are getting the COVID vaccines anymore. They're trying to work on different things. And I think, the company executes. This is a company that actually can execute. The valuation is still trying to figure it out because how much, of all the money that they were making isn't going to be made because nobody's getting COVID shots anymore. So it's hard to figure out the valuation and tracking that on this stock. But, it's been a pretty good pullback here. You get a little lift here today. Again, this is AI day. It's not Moderna day. So I don't think I'm chasing this move.
Looks like you got some real estate up to 100. Haven't hit it yet in the pre-market. 10010, 10024 was your highs from February 6th and 7th, but also another high at 99. So that's a ways to go until you get over $100, man. Still looks like path of least resistance is still lower on this one. Major support at the $85 area.
I think if you go up towards that 103 area where you've got the 200-day, I think it might actually be a decent short there.
Okay. All
Good
right.
resistance up there. I'm with you, Ryan, on the 100 area. Let's bring in the Warlock. He's hiding in the background here. Kenny Glick. Let's do this. Let's run that intro.
Sorry.
Or we just bring him right in.
Bring him right in. Sorry.
Bring him right in. We don't need intros today. Who needs intros? Just waste time. Bring the Warlock in. I got to talk. Gives me another 10 seconds to talk to Kenny. Get him in here. I'm at him.
I'll do my own intro. Boo, bam, boo, bah. Hey, what's up, everybody?
We have known Kenny for a long time, and I tell you, the one thing, Kenny's always fun, but you know what? He's all over the trends. He's all over momentum. And Kenny, we always know you've got some hot stocks that you're looking at as well here. What is the Warlock see in this AI-driven market?
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for having me on. I'm already short NVIDIA. What can I tell you? What's up?
Are you short NVIDIA?
Oh, yeah. Take a look. I got my charts up so I can finally show you some stuff.
Gosh, I want to see this.
Could, bring it up. Basically, for me, it's the same day every day. I love these big gaps. See that little blue line right there? That's VWAP. Yeah. And I look for stocks that are above the VWAP that report earnings that break down under the VWAP. So,
nice.
Just put a little short there at 3.7.
This is a day trade.
Yeah, absolutely. 767.50. You short a couple of hundred shares. You get paid. It's a 10-point move right here. And pretty much your days in hand. What I'm looking for right now when the market opens up, if it doesn't get back over those levels and starts to roll, that's when I start looking at options. So basically, it's the same day for me all over again. I actually have a credit call spread on because the option premiums were so absurd. I have a 980, 1200 credit call spread where I was just basically betting that NVIDIA wasn't going to 1200 over the next, 20 months, which I'm still a little bit nervous about. So I think it would be all right. But, it's been a great, as again, the ex-president of the Perma Bear movement, I've had to, take that hat and put it way over there in the corner since October. I've been, rubbing my hands together, looking for a reason to short this market. And I saw it a couple of days ago, and then you get this in your face. So I am not buying puts. The only thing I've done is I've sold some naked calls on the Qs a little bit further out. But, back to Dennis. Yeah, I've just been wherever the money's going. I've been involved. Everything I've been buying right now has been off these three-year charts. One of my favorites has been the stock path. I'll show you these 3-year charts. This is what I've been looking at the whole year. So any stock that's been destroyed, when they come back out of that basing pattern, this is your 3-year VWAP. My idea was that they were all going to get there. So stocks like Path, obviously, I've had some fun with that Carvana. I gave it to you guys at around $17 with a $58 target. I found some really weird small cap stocks like CAPT. This is an interesting company. If it's real, I called the company. They actually called me back. I'm in this thing at like.
You called the compcompany?
I did call the company.
You want to know if it was real?
I did. I'm still not convinced, but they do. They do the
boots on the ground
side of the buildings. They do the virtual billboard. So instead of having to build a billboard, the glass actually is the billboard. And I saw this in action. I was like, hey, that's interesting, and it's a brand new stock. And again, stocks that break 250 generally go to 5. And if you get 5, you get to 750. We cashed out of most of it at 750, and hopefully it pulls back to 5. And, again, it's just been an amazing market. It's hard to be wrong and long right now. So, I've just been joining in on the fun.
Yeah, if you can't beat him, join him. Kenny, I too have been trying to look for a short since last year. There were a couple of prints ago. I tried to play NVIDIA short via NVDS, and that blew up in my face as well. So I'm with you on that one. We're still looking. I got nothing on right now, but I think maybe some SQQQ, SOXS today. We'll see if we end up reversing here.
Yeah. I'm looking at the stock sell. I sell puts on that one all the time. I love semiconductors. I was brought up on the semiconductors.
Mm-hmm.
When I was trading 97, 98, it was flash memory. That was like the big thing, and SanDisk, and AMAT was the king of all stocks.
iOmega was
before that. iOmega was before SanDisk. Yeah. So going back way back in the day. So, again, yesterday, I got to say, was the most reminiscent to 99. Yesterday was one of the most active days I've had in a long time. Everything was moving. You had the small caps, you had the mid caps, you had the tech stocks were ripping. The earnings reversals that I covet so much. Yesterday we had a nice trade in Caesars. Again, if you give me a stock that reports earnings, I'll just show you what we do. Generally, as long as the stock is down below the VWAP, if you get over today, the blue line is the 1 minute. The orange line is the magic. That's prior day VWAP. And when you get momentum over the VWAP and the prior day VWAP, 9 times out of 10, you get a decent move up. And that's what day trading is all about. If I could buy a stock at 40.5 and make 2 points in 40 minutes, I'm all over that. So Caesars was a decent one yesterday. just to throw a couple ideas out there, just like an AIG last week, it popped on the earnings, it rolls back over. So all we're doing, this is just classic day trading, just all around the VWAP. It's very specific, it's very niche, and it keeps me focused. And it also reminds me that I don't need to care about whether the market's going to go up, whether it's going to crash, the NVIDIA earnings. We just stay focused on price, and every day is basically the same day, and it's fun.
Kenny,
I just want to ask a strategy question before we moved on here, because we know Kenny's all over the VWAP. I mean, how do you not get chopped up? Like sometimes it crosses and then it fakes you, and then like even looking at this chart here, I mean, it crossed the VWAP so many times here.
Right.
How do you not get chopped up in that?
Well, generally, I'm using multiple stops. So I'm a big fan of being done by 11:30. So some of this chop, I'm already done for the day.
Okay.
I'll look for new setups. What was the one that we had yesterday? I can't remember because we did trade so many names. But to your point, a lot of times the best moves are 9:45 to 11:30, and by 11:30, I'm pretty much done with the day. I like waiting until 9:45 also because a lot of players that are on my website are only options only. So trying to trade an option play at 9:30 with the spreads are absurdly wide, they're illiquid. I tell people, why don't you just wait 15 minutes, wait for the market to do what it needs to do, form that little range, then look for the VWAP break. So again, it's so specific, 9:45 to 11:30, VWAP breaks on earnings reports. And also, we never get out of our position all at one price. So during that chop, we just have multiple stops, and that's just based on the highs and the lows of the candles, and that keeps you focused. And again, once you see it, you never unsee it. And now it's been like 13 years from now. I will not trade anything else other than this setup.
I like that you're talking those time frames too. It's amazing how many times I hear the same thing, like day trading between 11 and 2. I call it the chop hour, and I got rid of that back in like 2010. I stopped day trading and I take off the entire 3-hour lunch for me every single day.
Yeah,
11 to 2, unless there's going to be a Fed meeting or something, that's going to be a catalyst to move. 11 to 2 is a 3-hour lunch. You deserve it. I start my day probably before most traders. I end my day probably after most traders. But I have found that those hours, are just consistently chop, slop, and not a lot of, trend. And it makes it difficult for day traders. And it's funny, you were saying the same thing. You avoid those hours too.
Right. There are some, one of my guys actually loves that time frame because he uses hourly VWAPs and a different type of, different time frame. So he'll use 1 minute, 5 minute, hourly. He actually invented something called anti-VWAP. I'm actually not too sure what it does, but he loves it. And he looks for those narrow channels where he just buy the pullback and then sell the retrace, buy the pullback, sell the retrace. And he does pretty well at it. So I look for the bigger move. I want to get paid a little bit more. He likes that. He likes that midday chop. So it actually does well for me because as I go take a nap, because I'm old, he's coming on and showing his stuff.
Dennis, is that a 3-hour lunch or a 3 martini lunch?
You gotta watch, because then the production really drops when you come back to your desk at 2:30 after the 3 martini lunch.
Kenny, gotta ask you about one that gave you a little haircut here. You talked about Rambus, and people in the chat want to know your current thoughts on Rambus. It was looking great at 70, almost 80. They took it out to the woodshed, finding great support here at 54. Is your thesis still the same for
Absolutely.
Rambus?
Yeah, this is the one stock. Again, I am very nervous going into earnings reports, so I always lighten up. So again, I had some leaps on this thing. I sold them, and now I bought them back. So I still love this stock, and the way to play it, again, I don't really invest in the stock market with stock. I buy leaps. So what I'm looking for right now is to buy this back exactly at the same price. So I'm out there. I'll show you the ones I'm looking at. I'm looking at the Rambus January all the way out. I go as far as I can. So I'll show you the ones I got. It's the January 2026. So 694 days. A lot can happen over the next 674 days. I'm looking at the January 70s. By the way, that's me up there selling at 22.45. So I was in at 9.50, got out. These are me, basically. I'm the only one trading this contract.
It's you. So, you're the only one on this contract.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's all me. That all open interest, that's all me.
Yeah. So if I could get those back at 9 or even under 9, I'm back in this thing again. I sold puts on it. I sold 37.50s. for $3 or $4, and I'm willing to hold on to this. I really do think this thing's going $120. But again, I'm not the best investor there is.
What's the story behind here? Because I want to just bring background to Kenny. We were sitting in New York. It's got to be 7 or 8, maybe even 10 years ago, and AMD was like, you were preaching AMD to me at 2 and at 4, and you're like, this thing is going to be the stock.
Yeah.
And I think it was 12 when we were in New York, and you're like, this thing is coming back. It's going to get back to those all-time highs, which I think at the time were like $45 or something like that. But Kenny called the AMD earlier than anyone. And obviously AMD is now $172 stock here. So is this the next AMD?
Well, it kind of is already. I mean, it's had a really nice comeback from $17. I mean, this thing, if you watch Rambus again, it all started off the chart. And when I saw the stock coming back, you got to look at it. This is a 25-year chart. So I'll show you on a weekly just to give you a perspective. There's the orange line.
Can we see Kenny's?
Yep.
Yeah.
So, again, this basically came, I call it, they're in the dungeon. And when they come out of the dungeon, they run for freedom. So the way I'm looking at this stock is that, we started buying it. I was a little bit late on this one because I couldn't believe I was actually looking at Rambus. I mean, this was the old high flyer. This was the I Omega, the Rambus, the double click, if you will, or the I don't know. Let's go even further back. Alta Vista. So this is back in the day. So when I saw it breaking out into the 50s, I figured, hey, we're probably going to get $80 on this. And if 80, you get the 120. You know how the market works. Just like the reason I was buying ARM. Once that IPO turned around, and I said, listen, if it gets over that orange line at 57.50, the stock's probably going to 80. And if it goes to 80, it goes to 120. I cannot believe what this one did. I mean, it went to 120 that night. So, I cashed out between 80 and 120 and then it tacked on another 50. This market's just ridiculous. It's amazing you can make 40 points on a trade and still feel like a loser. It's absolutely crazy. But I love semis. I love the stock sell. But again, back to what do I do for a living? It's all about, what NVIDIA is going to do for the rest of the day. Right now, the short's still on. So I'm just looking to fade the Qs today. Maybe get a,
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
No. I was just going to ask you to wrap it up and give you some final thoughts of the day, and you went right there.
Cool, man. And I got some other little biotech stock that's been treating me well. The stock CCC reported earnings. I've been in this one. I'll show you the chart again.
Quad C.
Yeah, here's the 3-year chart. I just love stocks that have been destroyed. Again, this is where my bearishness shines, because when stocks have been destroyed, it's so much easier to read the chart and see where breakouts could bring you. So I've been in this one since this pop. And again, consolidation at higher levels is very bullish. They reported the earnings. The stock's not tanking. I've been in this one. I'm trying to buy it on the pullback, but it's not really pulling back too much today. Like this name. I like this chart. Some other ones that we saw was...
how do you find these, Kenny?
Well, generally, I'm the second guy in. Usually there's a news story that piques my interest. I'm like, oh, okay, this one doesn't look too bad. We keep it on the watch list. We watch it for about a week or so. And I say, if it doesn't want to die, it's a buy. So these things don't want to go away. We keep an eye on them. This thing has options. The options are pretty liquid. They created weeklies. And when they start creating more options chains, that's bullish. So then you could see some people that are starting to get involved with, strategies and see the option chain start to percolate. Then I'm interested. And next thing you know, we've been in this one, got to be over, 2 months already now. So I just find them right off the news. And, when a stock treats me well, I keep it around, here's another one that just popped on the NVIDIA. This is one I'm losing on. So there you go. It's not all winners. I was in this one. Johnson & Johnson bought a stake in the company, and also
what is this company?
NNOX. They make an MRI, open MRI machine
right now,
so you don't have to go into the tube. And it was a disaster. But I went out there and I bought some April calls last year because I liked the name. They were down to 0, and then suddenly there was some NVIDIA news on this name, and it's sprung to life. So we traded for the next couple of days. So far, it's been a dud. It rolled right back over, but that's exactly how we do it. Something piques our interest. We keep an eye on it, always going back to the main trade, the earnings reversals and the VWAP. But when I see these, these big news events, I keep an eye on it. And if it consolidates at a higher level, usually you break out. Again, it's a little bit easier to trade in a bull market because, it's hard to be long and wrong. But there's just so much going on. I mean, it's just absolutely incredible. This is the best market I've ever seen in my life.
Kenny Glick, the founder of HitTheBid.com, joins us here on Pre-Market Prep to give us his lively and comical take on the markets. Kenny, we love you. We'll have you back again soon.
I love you guys. Good luck today, everybody.
Thank you, Kenny.
Thanks for having me.
All right, back to some earnings here. We haven't had much retail earnings here, but we do have Wayfair on a pop. Ryan, could you give us some numbers on Wayfair?
Unfortunately, my pro news feed is still down here, so I don't have.
It's not an issue. I don't have an issue, so it's interesting. Our pros are up here, so maybe your internet connection here too. Wayfair, 11-cent loss versus 16-cent loss, so I guess that's a beat. They didn't lose as much money as opposed to. The sales were light, 3.1 billion versus 3.11 billion. The stock report just came out this morning. I'm just trying to grab the guidance here, but I don't see. I don't know if they've had the guidance here yet, actually. So it came out at 7 o'clock. So I don't see any guidance here yet. Stock's popping 11% for some reason here, though. Maybe it's just oversold. Maybe it's just, this day where Momo trade is coming back to life here. It's a nice pop. I'd like to see what the guidance is, so I've got to dig deeper. I would say just from the charts, 55 looks like some resistance here to me. But Wayfair is a wild child. This stock can really move on earnings. We've seen 10, 12-point moves like this on earnings, so don't think it's up 5. It can't go up more.
Yeah, just and you got a good level to keep on. You have a little bit of synergies with that pre-market high that came in at 56.98, and you also have a daily high, 2 daily highs right in that area, all the way up to 56.35. So you get above there, like you said, this thing it can really run. I just would be cautious. It wasn't the greatest report. If you can't get back to that pre-market high, then the top of yesterday's range, if you're looking for a little bit of a rollover, top of yesterday's range comes in at 49.41. But there's Wayfair, almost $3 off. Kind of leaking right now as we speak. I don't know if someone just said something bad, but that pre-market high going to be tough to get back up there for
Probably
Wayfair.
the call. Probably just gave guidance on the call. We said we were waiting for guidance. One tip: be careful trading stocks before the guidance, because sometimes they don't give the guidance on the initial report. Sometimes they give it during the call, and sometimes that can change the entire story. It's a lot of times why you have big earnings reversals here. Moving away from the earnings, we did not talk this stock, and it's probably it would be one of the story stocks of the day if it wasn't AI Day and NVIDIA Day, and that's Royal Caribbean, which is raising guidance here. So they weren't even on the calendar here, but they came out and raised guidance here on heated demand for cruises. They're raising their outlook up to 990 to 1010. Analyst estimates were down at 977, so they're looking at making more money here, lifting their full year outlook. They've been talking the big talk. I mean, even the last report they were talking about how the bookings were record bookings. And and the market's just not listening that much, but maybe it starts to listen here today. Funny though, as much as SMCI timed their offering perfectly during the NVIDIA call so nobody would notice, RCL raising guidance on AI NVIDIA Day, and they're not getting one headline really from this, not even a mention on CNBC. I haven't even seen a mention of this on CNBC. So, I mean, they should have held it for a day and do it on non-AI day, and then we'd be talking about it more. Even our show, 54 minutes in until we finally give it a mention. But this is, helping, obviously, a lot of travel stocks here today. RCL lifting the obvious peers. NCLH is up 4% as well. CCL is up 5% as well. So they're all lifting. If you're wondering why they're up, it is the RCL guidance. You wonder if airlines don't get a little bit of a lift here. I'm still long my AAL, which has been a disaster.
You've been hanging on
although
that.
I'm almost back to even on that thing. Delta lifting up a little bit here. Think about like Booking, BKNG. It's trading up. You won't see any change because it's all odd lots, but it's up $30 here right now too. So I think that helps to lift those stocks. Ryan, we'll throw it to you here first. What do you think about the cruise lines?
Going on a cruise?
I have been on a cruise. I really enjoyed my time, but I'll be honest, boys, ever since COVID, it's going to be very difficult to get me back on a cruise ship. There's no way I'm going to let somebody else lock me on a boat for any reason. I'll tell you that much right now.
They're not doing that anymore, Ryan. Those days, that ship has sailed.
Hey, you get any type of weird disease, I think they're going to run that same playbook right back. But regardless, get back to the stock here. RCL. Yep. I think you made a really good point about them reporting kind of on a day where it's AI day. They really should have done this some other day. I think that travel is actually going to kind of compress. I think as the consumer continues to tighten into this year, they're going to be doing less traveling. I think you're kind of seeing the end of that. I'll be curious to see where these stocks go. I would rather play the airlines, despite the airlines being such a bad business for trading. I'd rather own something like Delta to try and capture that. But my overall feeling on this, consumer continues to tighten, less bookings for some of these cruise lines.
RCL, nice pop here. Pre-market or after hours high, 123.25. That's going to be your number of the day because that's right with the 50% retracement of the recent move. So you get up to that area, reclaim it, going back to all-time highs. If not, perhaps a little bit of back and fill. Let's look at CCL. Oh, that's been on a steady downtrend, getting a big lift up 80 cents. We'll have to see if it can open 700,000. They're going to have to choose through the paper to open up that high. NCLH, Norwegian Cruise Lines, that's up 60 cents too. But I'll just tell you, when RCL, I remember when they came out, it was last report or two reports ago, and they said, hey, we're kicking butt. And it moved that day, but people kind of lost their way on it and ended up having a really good move as well. So Rays, keep an eye on it. Maybe if you could get maybe it gets ignored a little bit today and get it back closer to the top of yesterday's range. That's a ways away at 116. S&P status, we're going to be opening up right near all-time high. When's the last time we had a open up of 60, nearly 70 handles on one stock? Is that good for the market, Dennis?
Yeah, it's good for the Qs and it's good for the SPY. It is not good for the IWM, which is actually perilously close to giving back all of its pre-market gains here. We are only up, and we had predicted this, but you can see what has happened here in the last couple of hours. 199.5. Somebody kissed 200. It looked like that might have been 8 o'clock, but probably bad. But I mean, how far was it? 198.5. I can't see because
198.47.
Yeah, so we're buck. Yeah, so we're buck off the highs, but leaking here, and I still think IWM might go red here today, just because this is AI day, not IWM day. But tech, going back to tech, there's just so many stocks that are ripping here this morning. Kathy's having a day here too. But I mean, it's green across the board. Microsoft, Meta, Google, Amazon. It's been rare that we've seen all the mega caps just rip roaring and rallying. One thing to keep in mind if you're chasing Apple here today is Apple has been moving a little bit opposite to the overall market here on the Qs lately. Hasn't been participating in the rallies, hasn't, really got the love, because obviously the Vision Pro, people are saying it's clunky, people are saying it's giving them a headache. People are saying it's not going to be the game changer, and it's been leaking. But it bounced off 180, Joel, again when you were away.
Wow.
The support here is phenomenal, but I'm going to say you test support enough, eventually you may take it out. I wouldn't want to see it go back down there again. I had an Apple position on. I did lift the position off because I just don't like it continues to weigh down, despite, think about the Qs making new highs. Apple not even close here. So Apple up a little bit here today, but not participating nearly as much as any of the other ones. We have Microsoft up 2%, Meta up 2.3%, Google up 2%, Amazon up 2.4%, Netflix even up 1.1% here, Apple up 0.58%, not participating as well here. Apple's got issues, I think.
I heard a lot of people were returning those Vision Pro.
Well, I heard that too.
Yeah.
And that's when I turned around and I ended up losing, I think it was $5 on this. I'm like, you know what? My timing just might be off here. I thought the Vision Pro would be, the reception to it would be better than it was, and it's not. And again, remember, it's okay to be wrong. It's not okay to stay wrong. And if the information changes, you exit your trade. If you're in it for a reason, I thought the Vision Pro could be a catalyst. It's starting to be the opposite. It's, not being a catalyst here whatsoever. Yeah. So, I mean, you've got to be able, one thing why I have survived in this business here, this is my 25th year of professional trading, doing this for a living, no day job, just trading. Why I've survived, it's not because I make good market calls. It's because I admit when I'm wrong and I get out quickly here. I feel like, when I bought Apple up at 188, I think it was, I feel like, I thought Vision Pro was going to be a catalyst. It went up to 191. It was looking good for a couple of days. And then obviously, we've seen, information coming in that, people aren't liking the Vision Pro as much as, what we had hoped. So that new information changes my thesis, makes me exit the trade.
All right. Dennis, cut your losers early, let your winners run. That is advice I've been given and taken for
sure.
years. So absolutely.
Yeah. Ryan, give us your closing thoughts here. Obviously you've got your show to go to, so stay on this channel because Ryan's going to be continuing with you here. But give us your closing thoughts here for Pre-Market Prep.
Appreciate that. And thanks for having me on here. Well, my big thing is I want to see if tech actually stalls out here. You guys talked a lot about us being, gapping up to all-time highs here. I want to see if we reverse here, and I want to see if we reverse at all on volume. We talked about 745 being a pretty important level on NVDA in one of my other shows here. So I'm just really curious to see if we keep going. Do we keep making new highs here, or do we actually reverse? Some of the holdings that I have are mostly smaller cap names, so I'm a little bit disappointed. I definitely want to monitor the IWM strength today and see if we really get a pullback there or if we get any rotation into the IWM. But again, I really appreciate you guys for having me on. I really hope you'll stick around for the next show. And Joel, what do we have? What guest do we have coming on Friday?
Well, we got Rocky Horner from Simpler Trading coming on tomorrow, but we got a special treat for you guys today. Been getting a lot of requests to do some more closing prints, and it's Thursday. So if you guys haven't had enough of us, join the Pre-Market Prep YouTube channel, and Dennis and I will be doing the closing print at 3:30 today, taking you through that wild last half hour of trading. And from what it was like yesterday, we're expecting another wild one. So Ryan, great job today. We'll be back with you tomorrow, and everyone, go get them out there. Keep an eye on that all-time high in the S&P, 6650, current pre-market high, 6775, 68 handles overnight. That's a lot to digest. Everybody, have a great day. We'll see you at 3:30 p.m. for
and
the
stay on the
closing
channel.
print.
Ryan will be continuing with you here.
Yep, just about 5 minutes. We'll get started. Thanks, boys. Have a great one. We'll talk to you tomorrow.